Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wit, Wisdom, and Wine with Daryl Ann. I'm happy to see you back, and I have some more stories for you and a little more wit for you. Actually, a lot of wit for you and a little more wisdom. I don't want to bombard you with the wisdom, that'll come later. Anyway, again, happy to see you. And where we left off last time, I was telling you about the famous Murphy sisters and their dealings with the Catholic nuns in grammar school way back then. So I want to give you one more story, kind of a closing story about our elementary school experiences with the Sisters of Charity in our suburban town in New Jersey. We went all through 8th grade with a different sister or nun every single year. And as I mentioned in my previous talk, some of them were really nice and some of them weren't so nice. Some of them I don't think were so happy being nuns, but yeah, we sort of found that out. So as we went through each grade, we were more or less indoctrinated into the thought that if we were boys, we should really think about the priesthood. We should think about maybe becoming a priest. That was a great vocation. And if we were girls, well, we should really think about becoming nuns and being brides of Christ, and carry on that tradition to further the cause of wonderful Catholic nuns around the world. And some of that was really benevolent and wonderful thinking. But as we progressed through each grade, I noticed that the indoctrination became even heavier. Now, girls, you want to become a nun. It's a wonderful life. I noticed that my older sister seemed to be absorbing and enjoying these talks. I, however, was not. I think at an early age, I realized that maybe it wouldn't be such a great life. I mean, living in a convent and never having a family and teaching kids all day, I don't know about that. So as each grade went on, the indoctrination became, as I say, stronger. It got to the point where the nuns would be telling us to actually pray very hard for a vocation to become a nun. And with that, they urged us to go into the church and sit quietly for 15 minutes. I have to have another sip of wine on that one. Hold on. Okay, good. Sit quietly and meditate, and perhaps the message would come to us that we would become a nun. My sister absorbed this very well, and by 7th grade, she decided she was going to become a nun. This was her vocation. My parents were overjoyed. I mean, a priest and or a nun in the family? What more? What more could you pray for? So by the time we got to 8th grade, and I had rejected all of the attempts to indoctrinate us, we had a nun called Sister Mary Margaret. Now, Sister Mary Margaret was very different from all of the other nuns and all of those other grades. She was scowling and sort of unhappy every day. As the school year wore on, Sister Mary Margaret started to talk to us more about the vocation of being a nun. And it became clear that Sister Mary Margaret was not happy being a nun. Oh no, she didn't really like it. She talked to us about the dark life of waking up one day and being in a convent and being a nun. So girls, my advice to you is think it over very, very carefully. Well, I loved that Sister Mary Margaret. She was my favorite nun. She made sense to me. It was great. Some of the other students were not so happy, but I left 8th grade and the Catholic school realizing that Sister Mary Margaret was right and I was right. So, end of grammar school. It's over. My decision was then no more Catholic school. I'm going to a public high school. A really good decision, actually, that I made. My older sister drank the Kool-Aid, loved everything about the church, and went to a Catholic high school, where actually she was very happy. And I'll give you a little secret. She never became a nun. Thank God. Okay, so that was over. Okay, so teenage years. Teenage years. Uh, they are, I think, the same the world over. The world over. Through the generations, teenagers are teenagers. Even way back when I was a kid, 100 years ago, they were teenagers. Teenagers think their parents are always wrong, and parents think their teenagers are always wrong. It's years that I used to call temporary insanity because I forgot to mention, very important, I had 3 kids of my own. So, glasses adjusted, more wine. Good. I actually went through the teenage years with my own kids, okay? And they were very, very different in their generation, just as teenagers are very, very different today. But I found something that I thought was very effective, and I think it might be kind of a good idea for parents today to think about doing this. There's a lot of miscommunication, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of door slamming, there's a lot of you don't understand me type thing going back and forth, right? I'm sure you understand that. Or if any of you have grandchildren, you understand that. So, how about an idea of what I would call the gripe session? A gripe session, okay? How about designating a couple of times a week to sit down with your teenagers for a gripe session, okay? Everybody gets fair and equal time. They might get 10 minutes. Oh, yeah, they have a lot to say, okay? So give them their 10 minutes. Let them gripe, okay? Let them tell you what terrible parents you are, okay? And then halt. Okay, okay, kids, my turn. So parents take over. Okay, these are our gripes. Okay, we get the next 10 minutes. All right, okay, 20 minutes up. The next 10 minutes, how do we solve these gripes? Let's talk about how we solve these issues. Let's have mutual understanding. Okay, it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And it's really, really helpful. So, from a wise old owl like me, I would offer you that suggestion as a possibility. But I want to segue back into the teenage years for people back in the 50s and 60s. We were raised on Hollywood movies where everything was fabulous and wonderful, and there was dancing and singing, and everybody got married at the tender age of 20 and couldn't wait to have 10 kids and just adored their partners, and everything was going to be wonderful, happily ever after, till death do us part. So those were our expectations when we were teenagers as to that blissful, idyllic life when we became wives or husbands or parents. And that carried through probably into our early 20s. So that's a whole different section and a whole different cycle of people's lives when they enter into their early 20s. And I have an amazing, amazing story of what happened to my roller coaster life when I entered into the ages of 20 to 23. And it's full of ups and downs, but it's a great one. It wound up to be great for me, and I can't wait to share it with you. I hope you'll enjoy it. And again, it's time for 5 o'clock here, and hopefully 5 o'clock everywhere where you can hold on a second. Enjoy, whether it's red, white, whether it's Jim Beam, whatever. I'm really, really happy that I could spend time with you again, and I hope to see you again. And everybody have a great night. Thanks.